If you do the crime, you do the time. At least that's what we're told. But in some courtrooms, judges are replacing jail time with far more creative punishments, and in some cases, handing down sentences that are so outrageous, they go viral. But do these unusual punishments always fit the crime? Here to tell us is legal analyst and trial attorney Misty Marys. So Misty, in Cleveland, a 32-year-old woman was caught on tape recklessly driving on the sidewalk to avoid a school bus before being captured by police. So what was her sentence?
So in this case, Jesse, a police sting was set up because this woman did this multiple times, drove around a school bus on a sidewalk. So she's caught on tape doing this. Ultimately, she's sentenced to wear a sign that says only an idiot would drive on the sidewalk to get around a school bus. So she's forced to stand outside for 2 days, an hour a day. That's her sentence. Now, of course, this could have been so much more severe. She's driving on a sidewalk. She could have hurt or even killed someone.
Yeah, she could have, or a kid coming off the school bus. It could have been so much more serious. So she had to wear a sign on the sidewalk somewhere. You think that fits the crime?
In these cases, this type of punishment is called a shaming punishment. And the whole purpose is to prevent repeat behavior. Now, in this case, one of the more egregious aspects of it is that she actually didn't really seem to take this seriously during the sentencing. She was a little defiant about it. So it's actually shocking that she got this opportunity. In this particular case, someone could have been hurt, killed. She should have been punished much more severely. And if she was in another jurisdiction, she would have found herself behind bars.
Yeah, it sounds like she got off way too easy. Okay, we're going to now move on to a Florida judge whose shocking sentence in a 2012 domestic violence case has gone viral. Watch this.
He's going to be out of jail by 3 o'clock today. He's going to get a card. He's going to get flowers. And then he's going to go home, pick up his wife, get dressed, take her to Red Lobster. And then after they have Red Lobster, they're going to go bowling. All right?
This is in lieu of posting a bond, right?
Yes,
right,
sir.
in lieu of posting a bond. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
See, this is wild. I don't think I've ever heard a judge ordering a husband to take his wife out for dinner after a domestic violence charge. What happened here?
Yeah, this is certainly a unique circumstance, Jesse. So here you have a man who's accused by his wife in a domestic violence dispute of pushing her down on the couch, putting his hands around her neck, raising his hand to her, and ultimately not hitting her. So that's why he found himself in a courtroom before a judge. Now, in this case, despite all of those allegations and the fact that this was not their first go-around with the police coming to resolve a domestic violence issue, the judge qualified this as a minor dispute and thought that a more appropriate sentence would be a date night at Red Lobster than anything else. So this drew a lot of criticism. Ultimately, this whole situation went viral.
Yeah, I'm not sure how taking your wife out to dinner in this case is going to prevent him in the future from potentially engaging in another domestic abuse altercation with his wife. What do you think should have happened?
Jesse, I completely agree with you. So in cases like this, it really highlights a more overwhelming societal issue of how the courts treat domestic violence. This is what happens. In many cases, these types of issues are not treated seriously, despite allegations of actual physical contact. Oftentimes, the victims, they'll recant, they'll change their story, they want to protect the person that they're with. But despite that, the judge saying that a lobster dinner is going to somehow deter this type of future conduct is absolutely ridiculous. And this was definitely handled poorly.
I agree. A lesson has to be learned at some point. Okay, move on now to Texas. A judge forced 20-year-old Justin Bundy to either marry his 19-year-old girlfriend, Elizabeth, within 30 days or face 15 days behind bars. What's the story behind this outrageous sentence?
So in this case, you have a boyfriend who gets into an altercation with his girlfriend's ex. Apparently, the ex-boyfriend was saying something that was derogatory about women, so he punched him in the jaw twice. Now, that's how he gets into a courtroom. The judge in this case asks him, so was she worth it? He says, you know what? I would have done it again. I'm not sorry. Judge didn't like that. So he hands down one of the more bizarre sentences I've ever heard. First, as a part of his probation, he's required to write out Bible verses. Second, he's required, as you just said, unless he gets married, he's going to serve 2 weeks in jail. So because he's fearful of losing his job, he ultimately gets married. Now, in this case, they're happy, they were married, but they had to rush their wedding. They didn't get to invite family. So the way I view this case, this is actually a lawyer's worst nightmare. It's a judge taking his own personal views and imposing them from the bench. So this is views on marriage and religion. This sentence never would have been upheld if an appeals court had actually heard it.
Yeah, it's not quite an arranged marriage, but it's definitely a forced
It's a
marriage.
bit forced, yeah.
I'm curious to find out if they're still together, by the way. Okay, we're going to move on now to Painesville, Ohio, where a judge, Michael Cicconetti, he's become a bit of a viral sensation with his creative eye for an eye punishments. What can you tell us about the ruling in the case of a woman who was caught on camera attacking a fast food worker with pepper spray?
Okay, so she was given an option. Either 30 days in jail or the victim gets to pepper spray you in the court on tape. So in that case, the judge said this is why he gave the sentence, because he wanted the victim to feel vengeance. So ultimately, she did decide to go with the pepper spray as opposed to jail time. What she didn't know is that the pepper spray was just water. I mean, you couldn't really do that. That might be considered cruel and unusual punishment to pepper spray somebody. But ultimately, there's a lot of issues with this sentence. So this judge is famous for his eye for an eye type of sentences. But really, one of the questions of the criminal justice system that you always ask, is a sentence proportional? Does the crime fit the time? So in a case like this, you have someone on tape going into someone's place of business for the purpose of injuring them with pepper spray. That's an assault. That person would have found themselves in jail in any other jurisdiction. Also, I have a bit of a problem with the idea of promoting vengeance in the community. Really, it should be the criminal justice system that gives people justice, not get out there and seek vigilante justice. That's a bad message.
Vengeance, shaming, lobster dinners, and marriage. Those are the weirdest sentences I've ever heard. Misty, thank you so much for being here, trying to help shed some light on this.